Well, many states across the country have written to the central government and specifically to the Prime Minister saying that there is a shortage of coal which is causing a shortage of electricity in their states and they're going to have to start load shedding or massive power cuts. The central government, on the other hand, has said that there's no problem at all and these state governments are in fact overstating the problem, or what has been called a fear that has been misplaced. But is there a shortage of coal? Will it lead to a shortage of electricity? And will that lead to a hike in diesel prices? That's what we're going to talk about in today's whole story. Let me put this into perspective. India is the second largest coal consuming country in the world. We actually mine 75% of the coal that we need domestically in the country, 25% is imported. Of all the electricity that we need in the country, almost 70% of it is derived from coal, is generated from coal, which is why coal is so important to us. Now, let me tell you where the shortage is coming from. First of all, it's coming from China. China has had widespread power outages and they've had to shut many of their factories, and it's hit production and global supply, and this has led to an increase in the global price of coal. Now, power demand in our country has increased sharply after the end of the second wave because our economy is recovering, and because that recovering economy is demanding more power. So just to give you what those numbers look like, in August 2019, before COVID hit us, we had a demand of 106 billion units of electricity. In August 2021, after COVID, hopefully the last of COVID, demand has risen to 124 billion units. So there's a sharp demand after COVID. Now, coal-fired power plants also supplied that gap, that higher gap as well, which means we've used up a lot of that coal. So earlier in 2019, about 61% of the power that we needed came from coal. That's now gone up to 66%. The problem that we're facing with our local supply of coal is the rain. We've had heavy monsoons this year. I mean, I'm in Mumbai, it's still raining right now, in the middle of October, and it's been raining across the country. Now, what happens when it rains really heavily is that mining is disrupted because the mines tend to flood. The transport of coal gets disrupted as well, and that actually leads to a sharp increase in the price of coal because we're not mining as much as we should. There is less stockpiling as well. So for power stations and power generators, it causes a huge problem because the price has gone up domestically now and the price has gone up internationally, and that becomes an issue. Now, another main reason is we've not managed to stockpile as much as we would have liked to in the April-June period. Remember, there was the second wave, there was a lockdown, and continuous rainfall between August and September, which are really our good coal producing months, which we haven't been able to actually hit that level of coal producing. So a consistent move also from the government to reduce the import of coal and high international prices have led to us cutting down our imports even more. So here's what's happened. There has been an increase in demand of power as we've recovered from COVID. We've had low imports and higher international prices, and heavy rains have disrupted the supply of coal to our power plants domestically. So there's a concern right now and a fear that basically we're going to run out of coal. Now, let me tell you what the state governments have said about the situation in various states. Now, I'll go one by one. We have to start with the Delhi government. Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in Delhi said Delhi may face power cuts if the issue is not resolved. And he said in a press conference on Sunday, he said, and I quote, "We shall have to consider planning power cuts in Delhi if stocks are not replenished in 24 hours. There's a major crisis of coal in several power plants. The union minister has dismissed the shortage and criticized Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal for writing to the Prime Minister. Arvind Kejriwal had written to the Prime Minister on Saturday. He said that coal shortage is affecting power supply to the national capital region, and he asked the Prime Minister to intervene immediately. Now, Delhi is not the only state to have sounded an alarm. Let's take a look at Maharashtra. The Indian Express has said that Mumbai will face a power shortage. Mumbai never has power cuts. It's not, the city normally doesn't have power cuts, but that might happen as well. Indian Express has said that generation sets in Chandrapur, Nasik and some other places are not working. The Maharashtra Energy Secretary, Dinesh Vagmare, has said, and I quote, "We have coal stock that will last 1.5 days. We are repeatedly asking the centre to give us coal. The coal sent to us is not sufficient, and at this rate, we will have to start load shedding." End quote. Bihar Chief Minister, and this is on the 11th of October, said, and I quote, "It is a fact that there is a problem considering the requirement. Our demand normally comes from NTPC and private companies, but supply is affected. There are some reasons why the situation has risen. It's not only Bihar, it's everywhere." Assam's electricity distributor has put out an ad in the newspapers warning citizens of inevitable outages due to limited coal availability. They've said that, and I quote, "Power position is clearly at critical levels and power outages and load shedding will be inevitable. Kindly bear with us and use electricity judiciously." Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister has written to the Prime Minister on Friday evening, and he has said that the power demand has increased 15% in the last 6 months and 20% in the last 1 month. Coupled by the coal shortage, this is going to be an issue. In Punjab, 3 thermal power plants have been forced to shut down, and the Chief Minister has requested the centre to increase the coal supply to the state. According to a report in NDTV, residents in Bihar, Rajasthan and Jharkhand are experiencing power cuts stretching to 14 hours per day. Kerala's Energy Minister has said, and I quote, "The Kerala government will take a decision on imposing power cuts after the 19th of October. At present, the state is facing a shortage of 100 megawatts of electricity and is trying to meet the demand-supply gap to automated management system or by purchasing electricity at higher prices." Now, let's take a look at the response from the central government. How has the central government responded to all these states? The Ministry of Coal put out a statement on Sunday and said the current fuel stock at coal-powered plants is about 7.2 million tons, and it was sufficient for the next 4 days. The ministry has also said that any fear of disruption in power supply is entirely misplaced. The ministry went on to say that despite heavy monsoons and a steep hike in power demand, domestic supplies have supported power generation in a major way. So there's no acknowledgement at all whatsoever of this shortage that chief ministers are talking about. I also want to point out that these chief ministers are largely non-BJP states, except for Assam, which is a BJP state, and Bihar, which is a BJP allied state. The Union Minister of Power, R.K. Singh, criticized the Gas Authority of India, GAIL, and Tata Power for sending messages to their customers warning about a crisis. He said that these are baseless SMSs. He warned that such acts will be treated as instances of irresponsible behavior. He went on to say, "Neither there was nor there is any crisis. It is created unnecessarily," end quote. Now, this comes after the CEO of Tata Power Delhi Distribution, Ganesh Srinivasan, warned on Saturday that the national capital may face intermittent rotational load shedding in the coming days as coal-based power stations are left without coal stocks for the last 1 or 2 days. The minister criticized also the Congress for their remarks on reported coal shortage and said the Congress party has run out of ideas and they're running out of votes, so they are now running out of ideas. But to show you how serious the matter is, Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday held a meeting with his 2 cabinet colleagues in charge of coal and power ministries. Because of this shortage, NDTV reported that this meeting lasted 1 hour and the 3 ministers are believed to have discussed the availability of coal to power plants and the current demand as it is. So, what is likely to happen if there is in fact a coal shortage? What impact will we have? We will have blackouts, or we will have power cuts across various states. Now, I just want to point out that while the state governments have raised an alarm, the central government has not in any way confirmed this shortage. So we're just waiting and watching to see what the central government says. But in case there is a shortage, this is what will happen. Industries will face an electric shortage, which means they will have to either use generators, or they will have to shut down. That will have an impact on the economy. Businesses will have to downscale production. Offices will have to downscale the hours that they're using. People who are working from home will have an issue because it's very likely you won't have generators at home, and so as a result you will not be able to function out of home because you lose your Wi-Fi and you lose electricity, and that will disrupt business as well. and it will largely impact rural and underdeveloped areas because they will face larger power cuts than the urban centers. Normally what happens is when there's a shortage, the urban centers take up more of the power, the rural centers suffer more. Here is the other thing that will happen. There will be a larger demand for diesel because all the generators will run on diesel. Diesel is at an all-time high. It has crossed 100 rupees per litre in Mumbai, and it is fairly high and above 90 rupees a litre at least in almost all other parts of the country. There will be a spike in demand for diesel because most industries, most offices will start using diesel generators. Large buildings and housing complexes will start using diesel generators. This will increase the price of diesel even further. That will have an inflationary effect on citizens. Ordinary citizens will have to start paying more for vegetables, for milk, for medicines, for rice, for dal, because all of these prices are affected by the price of diesel. It will have an impact on the economy. So we're really now waiting to see what really happens and how the government is going to mitigate this shortage, if the shortage exists at all. Now remember, in the beginning I told you that the coal minister had said that we have about 4 days of coal in backup. Normally Indian thermal power plants have about 15 days of coal. So we have 4, that has been acknowledged. Many of the other state governments have said they have only 1 day or 1.5 days of coal. Now, most of the solutions, unfortunately, are long-term solutions. Reduce the dependency on coal, electricity, and use alternate forms, not something that's going to happen overnight. It requires large-scale investment. It requires development of wind energy, development of solar energy, and things like that. That is going to take a very long time. Stockpiling of coal, maintaining of that stockpiling, greater coordination between Coal India, which is our largest producer, and other stakeholders and private stakeholders, improving supply right now and making sure the right states get what they need. All of this will need to be looked at. According to BBC, the former chief of Coal India Limited, Zorar Chatterjee, has said that in the past these solutions have not been implemented because maintaining inventory comes at a great financial cost. So we're waiting right now to see what the central government says or does about this shortage and how it plays out over the next few days. But it does seem like, going by what the state governments have said, it does seem like a fairly serious problem. That's the whole story, and we'll bring you more updates on the coal shortage as and when we have them. Thank you for watching.